Are we ready to begin?
Maybe I'll just go stand in the podium and write one chair.
Huh?
Whatever you think.
Yeah.
It should be. Ready now? Oh, okay. It's time for us to begin. We're calling to order the town of Mangonia Park property and road. Priorities for the road and park workshop. Calling now called to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Alden, Vice Mayor Johnson,
I'm here.
Councilmember Green, and Councilmember McConnell,
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
All right, thank you. Now I have an introduction of our materials by our staff.
Vice Mayor and Council, good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. I'll be rather brief, and we'll turn this over to our engineer, Laurent Van Cott, who can answer any questions that you may have. During the budget process, when we were talking about road paving, council indicated that once we had the budget approved, we really wanted to get together in a workshop atmosphere and really set some priorities as far as the paving goes. The engineer and I, we've been out, we've looked at the roads, we've taken good notes, and we've included those notes in your packet along with a couple of pictures. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but of course Van is here to talk about it.
All right. Mr. Van Cott, our engineer, is going to share.
Floor is yours. Oh, well, I think this is what Ken gave you in the package. Is pretty self-explanatory, and I agree with, we took a ride all around town. We documented all of these, made notes. And right now, I think our game plan, we've gotten some roads done, a big chunk of 53rd. Of course, you know, Hill was done with the drainage system we put in. We've got a big chunk of East Avenue rebuilt and paved, and an intersection at Fairfield and East. And looking through, overall, our roads are in functional shape. I don't see any big disasters occurring, any large problems, but what I'd like to do is to buy some time on the roads in yellow. And that's to do some cut and patching just to bring it up to a functional speed. And then we can move forward with designating what I call a major project. Now, one of the ones that came up for discussion was Mangonia Hills area. Those roads are in good shape now, but they're 25 years old easily. Now, they've never been repaved as I remember when I was here. It looks like it was overlaid maybe 30 years ago or more, but I don't remember that. At any rate, even though that road's really functional, the life is coming up at right now, and they're not falling apart. So if we were to designate the Mangonia Hills area for a mill and repave, we would get the most cost-effective future roadway for that area, because it is a straight mill and repave. We took cores and sections, and the substructure is good, very good. There's 2 inches of asphalt out there, and we can mill out 1.5 inches. And it is just a straight mill and repave. We don't have to shut down roads, or, you know, if we do, it'd be short temporary, and of course, local traffic would go through. But we would get 25 more years out of those roads for the least amount of money to invest in them. The minute they start falling apart, then we got to start cutting them and rebuilding them and doing stuff like that, which adds to the mill and repave cost. The other hot topic road that Ken and I really wanted to do was 50th. And 50th is kind of an immediate need. That road is still passable. There's no major potholes, not gonna break your axles or anything like that. But that road needs mill and repave. And if we were to join, it's a very small road. So the cost of it to do it in and of itself is gonna probably be a premium, because they'll bring in all the equipment they gotta do to do a major project. So my discussion with the town manager was basically, maybe we could do Mangonia Hills and 50th Street at one time. And that would probably come in under 200,000 when we get two big sections of roadway addressed. The only caveat on 50th is just the other day, I got a call from a potential applicant looking to take a bunch of land down, purchase a bunch of land at the end of 50th. The largest land area that's been proposed so far, about 2.5 acres, he said. They may be able to solve the drainage problem and get a viable project down there. And if they look seriously to do that, I'd like to drag my feet just a little bit, because we could probably have as a condition, because they're gonna tear the road up when they build the project, that they just mill and repave the road with the project. But if the project's not coming, then I'd recommend that, after we do all the patch and cut, that we look at Mangonia Hills and 50th Street together. And then we could move on to, at that time, I'd then go around and look at our notes versus where we're at that time. And we can pick and choose. The East Avenue in front of Southern Cross, I'm probably going to request that they mill and repave the East Avenue in front of their project, because they're going to tear it apart when they're building it. Right now, it's on temporary use that y'all granted to them, but they don't have a well-defined entrance. You know, it's not paved or anything like that, so they're kind of beating East Avenue up a little bit. All the other roads look functional now. As you know, Crandon, Bourne, Paxton, Lakeshore, we're putting water and sewer in, so there's no point in milling and repaving roads that we're gonna be tearing up for water and sewer. And they're coming along fairly good, so we'll redo the roads with the water and sewer, and then what's left over in Bryn Mawr, we could do a mill and repave. But it'd be good to just go ahead and get the water and sewer and the new roads that are associated with them in place. And that's kind of the game plan for the first half of the football game, if you will.
Let me ask you, you were referring to Giller and Elmwood. I know that turn there seems to be kind of choppy, where the streets turn one and Giller turns into Elmwood.
Well, we could go in there and reevaluate and put in some patches. Ken showed me a picture of Driftwood. Again, it's really cracked, and there's a thin layer of asphalt that looks like it's peeled up. That one may bear going into the patching program, just to have it there when we mill and repave Mangonia Hills. So we can take a look at those areas more specifically with the patch program.
Council, have any other comments? Any comments about the work that you suggested?
Yes, Mr. Bancroft, you kind of jumped on Southern Cross. You talked about the repaving and milling, but you really didn't discuss costs. Maybe I'm being premature of what would something cost, or what would be the pipeline for that road. As you said, you maybe talk Southern Cross, the repaving mill project.
It's usually the mill and repave run $25 to $30 a square yard. And they're, I think that's about 100 feet, 150 feet in there, and the road's 18 foot or 20 foot wide.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be an extravagant cost for them to do that at the end of their project.
So give me, give me a cost, I mean, as you do some figures out there,
Well, I mean, this is really winging it based on discussions I've had with Cheatham, and I don't have the exact measurements, but let me
please.
see what we got here.
And I'm gonna assume that no drainage is going, no sewers, sewage or anything, can be going through that can be milled and repaved. This sort of cross section, 150 feet area.
No, that's been our biggest problem, is we had no place to outfall, so
Okay,
we're looking at the drainage being grass swales. I mean, let's just put it this way. 20-foot wide, 150 feet long, at $30 a square yard comes to 10 grand.
okay.
You know, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here.
And what struck your attention, because you got at the end, I mean, you in the Metcalf did your, drive around town on the roads, which is an inspiration of what needs to be addressed. You got the ones highlighted that are somewhat prioritized to be done. I guess the question I'm asking, we're having a conversation, is it something that needs to take place? What's the priority on that? If there's even a priority on that road that you just mentioned that we're discussing, is there a priority on a timeline on that?
No, we've been doing it as the cost has come in, and time's allowed us to bid it out. These are small, the patching is small, and we might be using two companies, possibly to keep the total cost down.
Okay.
One of the things that's frustrating is the work itself is reasonably economical. It's the bidding. It takes a lot of time and can cost a lot of money. So if we can get these on authorizations to move forward, the patching we can spread out so that we can not have to go through multiple bid packages. And as it is now, we're not publicly bidding, that really turns into a service. We raised our cap to be able to pick and choose our bidders, which allows us to pick the best in the county.
Okay, hold that, kind of piggyback and throw my attention to Mr. Metcalf. Okay, so we budget this in the general fund or the utility fund for what, because I know we had the workshop, but I don't remember off the top of my head how we were going to try to.
Yeah, so this is in your general fund budget. You have, 200,000 for paving and another 45,000 for repair, which that would be the cut and patch part of it.
Okay.
Basically just trying to balance the cost effectiveness in budgets versus the need, the dire need on the roadways, and trying to pick them so that we address the biggest problems and move forward. We don't have any other roads quite like Mangonia Hills where we're just gonna put 25 years more down on them at the least amount of cost you could get. We don't have to go in and dig up the roads. But all the others, we have to keep looking at them because some of these roads, East Avenue, when we did the testing on it, the southern portion was laying on dirt. I don't know how it survived that long, but it did. And so we went in there and rebuilt the roadway, and that cost some change.
And that also helped some of the runoff,
Pardon me?
that helped with some of the water runoff in that area.
Not really. The drainage patterns are fairly well established in town, and we really don't have a lot of outfalls. Now, one thing you are getting is a new road, West Place, which will become a public roadway up to the project, and that has drainage in it. It's tied into the county. And we had them also add a catch basin at Boardman, right across on the east side of West Place, if you will. And that, potentially, we might be able to hook some drainage from Bryn Mawr in there, but we're not really having any major flooding problems, because Bryn Mawr and Magonia Hills, basically, Bryn Mawr sheet flows to 45th Street, and Magonia Hills sheet flows down the hill. And we may be able to get, there's random puddles and everything in the roadway, because it's been used. A lot of those little puddles and stuff with the mill and repave will go away. We have an incredible perk rate in town, which really is our saving grace on drainage. But we did have the King Tide incident with the 6 inches of rainfall, and we flooded Fairfield and East for 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
That's what I was thinking of,
Yeah, now that was an act of God. That is not something you could address. We couldn't pump it out because the entire area was at the same level, just be pumping it in circles.
No place to put it.
So we wouldn't really see it go down. We had to wait for the King Tide to abate and get the water table to lower down. And that happened along the entire East Coast. With the water table raised during King Tides, because it raises the average point of discharge of the groundwater into the intercoastal by 3 feet. And that's exactly what we calculated once we got the surveyor to take tests on the water table. Everybody was underwater. I think people, the lake and Australian Business Park was up, huge. We had some people in town, I think the Kids R Us over there, they called Ken up and said, something's wrong with our drainage, the water's boiling out of it. And it was just the water table came up, they have an exfiltration trench, the water table went in there and just came up out of their catch basins. And we could do nothing but sit and wait on that.
I have another question. I'm noticing you using that terminology, random puddle, and so I'm looking at a random puddle that I see because I see it from my patio area. I'm talking Lake Shore, where Boardman and Lake Shore meets, and then you got the sun, you got Paxton and Crane and all that. That random puddle that you kind of described, even though it dissipates and goes away, when we have flood advisories and stuff like that, the weather's with some type of watch or whatever, some charcoal or something growing out there.
It's never
I'm not saying that we need a boat excess, but it gets a little ridiculous at times and it gets real messy.
Well,
When I
Lake
say
Shore-
by real messy, that random puddle becomes a random lake in a sense. Yes, it goes away in maybe hours, maybe a half or quarter of a day it goes away, but it's still an issue to me, concern to me, that random puddle there.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the hills, but I can speak for that because I live it.
Well, we've got Lake Shore and Boardman to be cut and patched, and at that time, we can put the slope in it to take the water to the swales.
Okay.
That type of thing, puddles you're seeing in areas that we mill and repave, we try to get rid of. Just by the fact that we clean the slope up and get the water running off the edge of the road. But recovery rate of 2 to 3 hours, even a half a day, is excellent, and if it's not impeding, it's sloppy. But if it's not, halfway up your ribs and getting in the doors, then we don't really consider that a flood, we consider that an inconvenience. But we do have Lake Shore and Boardman for a cut and patch that would try, I know the place you're talking about, that we can force the water
I'm not gonna get
on.
into the design because I know nothing about design. I just see an issue, and I'm not just me, there's other residents that comment about it. It's not to the point where cars are stalling, you gotta tow them out. But
You
when that
had
rain
them
comes,
stalled there?
I'm saying, it's not to the point that cars are
Right,
stalling.
that's
you know,
when
you know,
we've
pull them
got a
out.
real severe issue.
But it's the lowest point. And so when the rain comes in heavy, it has nowhere to go but there. So you have a lake on Lake Shore. And so I'm kind of repeating.
Right.
So hopefully when we mill it or repave it, we have a way to challenge it when it goes up, get in the water, excessive water. Even though it goes away in
Yeah,
3 hours or whatever.
at this time, I couldn't recommend trying to muscle any more drainage in there.
What's the future then? What's the future of Lake Shore?
Well, I think we push the water over to the swale areas that are kind of non-existent, but our perk rate here in town is absolutely incredible. As you've noted, if that recovers in 2 to 4 hours, South Florida says it's gotta recover within 72 hours. So,
My thing is too, and this is, I'm being realistic, I think. Hope Sound, when the water had nowhere to go, it was all over the news, the water wasn't going away, it was everywhere, and the streets were laced, and it wasn't going, that was more severe when it started with a tropical depression or some type of rainstorm.
yeah,
And
those
so-
certain events are gonna happen and, you
Yeah, so-
know, we have to keep an eye on it. If we get another really big rainfall, Fairfield and East could go back under. What we've done though is we've beefed up the pavement section to hopefully prevent the road from floating. And the road floats when you have heavy vehicles running over it and, you know, it just causes it to turn mushy underneath and then it wants to rise. So we put like 3 inches of asphalt in there. No, actually, we switched out base, it's 6 inches of black base. Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to avoid, inventing a jet ski, because it is getting, you know, it's.
Well, I'd appreciate, anytime you have flooding to that extent, I'd appreciate a photo, if it's got a date and time on it,
Sure.
so that I can actually look at the situation. It's very hard for me to run down here during rainstorms. I've been lucky enough a couple of times to come down while it was raining and be able to note certain things.
Well, I definitely kind of complied in that. Remember, Jeffrey goes around the curve where the memories stay at, and they were in, the screen sister. But that area's got drainage, got commercial, sanitary looking, so it tends not to pool anymore over there. Maybe if they re-get the road before we get to the skipper's house. They used to flood over there real bad, so I guess the drainage project that we had money for enabled to fix an area that was cool.
Was that right up in the curve?
Yes, sir.
We bought that, there's a railroad piece of property up there, a little
Yes, that's
sliver.
somewhat fixed.
And we went in there and got permission to dig that out as a dry detention area.
Yeah, that's been corrected, so I'm looking for correction in the future, and I'm moving on.
Yeah, well, we can always, the one thing I really would like to avoid is going through Bryn Mawr and trying to reestablish the swales where they're not established. That is gonna be a nightmare. People have just, you know, they moved down, they planted, they built fences, they got rocks, they got landscaping, and for us to put in legitimate swales,
And they got pools,
pardon?
and they got pools and puddles too. I'm just saying.
Well, yeah, but with the swales, we'd have it directed on Jeffrey, we reestablished the swales, and they seem to be working very well.
Yeah, I saw the improvement there, and, you know, you thought it out, and whatever was an issue before was no longer, so I just want that thought process to work on something.
Oh,
else.
we always look to do that, always look to do that.
I appreciate it.
You mentioned on 50th Street, what is the traffic on that street? Is there
50th Street is a dead end with 2 businesses on the north side of the road. 2 or 3, 2 I think. And they're right up at the top, so they're just going in and they tend to be light industrial. These guys are driving big trucks and stuff like that. They don't really carp that much about the roadways. But if they go all the way to the end, we do have water and sewer on that road. That road does need to be addressed eventually. And it's such a short road, I want to try and include it with another project so that, you know, we get one mobilization, they bring their equipment out and they move from one area to the next. If we say we want to do 50th by itself, they're going to bring everything out they need to do Mangonia Hills. It's the same equipment, but so it kind of goes for a premium. And that's, like I quoted that 10,000 to Councilman Smith, that is straight 25 mill and repay. You know, if they have to do any prep work and maybe some mobilization in there and so on, it's, practically speaking, it's not going to be 10 grand. But it's not going to be 100,000 either.
I want to know from here, out there, Coach Stan. Anyone have any other comments?
I just, when you talk about Hill, you're just talking about Hill Avenue, not the total Hill section.
No, Hill Avenue, I was just noting, had already been done. And that's got an industrial paving section from Australian all the way down to 53rd.
So, when you talk about the hill section,
Yeah, the hill section.
The residential-
Driftwood, Elmwood,
so you're talking about all of it?
yeah, and Gillard. Yeah, I think we could get a very good deal on that, because there's no prep, it's just pull in and start milling or repaving.
Yeah, 'cause all the road beds
Those beds
in
are
good
really
shape.
good. Yeah, 6 to 8 inches of base, 12 inches of compacted subgrade, and right now you have 2 inches of asphalt. So we could do a very quick, clean, nice job in there. I'm not aware of any problems, and, no utilities, we're just running over the surface. And we could get those roads back, they should be good for 20 to 25 years.
Mayor had a few comments to make on the road this week, and it was reviewing the list that had submitted and kind of talking over the work that is needed.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor, and thank you so much for carrying the meeting. My apologies, I caught in traffic coming back from down south. I have no questions at this time. I generally, whenever the engineer would submit something, I understand that he's gone through and he's prioritized and made recommendations, so I have no questions.
Yeah, I'd like to just keep moving along with Ken. He and I have been, interlacing what we need, the functional stuff, and then, the budgets. Because one of the big saving graces here is that $100,000 a year or more that we get from the county. And we're using that on the roadways. That's a huge help. That's a huge, huge help.
I was thinking that would be used. Fund use. I was thinking that was the fund use would be taking care of these projects. Okay. If there's no other comments, we want to thank you for your review and evaluation of the priority of road work.
No problem. I'll keep working with town manager on it. We'll keep things moving.
We appreciate your dedication and farmers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, certainly.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Send this workshop over to the mayor for continuation.
Okay, I thank you, Vice Mayor. Okay, assuming that there's been a full discussion on the recommendations from our engineer. Okay. Thanks so much. Then we'll move on to our second item as it relates to the workshop, and that, of course, is a discussion on review and prioritization of the Adiola Green Park. And of course, we received some information in our earlier packets that was sent via email from the town manager relative to some suggestions, ideas. And so what we'll do is we'll turn the floor over to town manager. Ken?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, thank you again. And I'll be brief so you can ask as many questions or throw out as many suggestions as you like. So really kind of want to break this down into two parts briefly. The first part is the immediate money that we're receiving from the county that's been kind of rolling over for several years, and it's finally rolled over into the amount of $54,000. It's 54000, $54,000. So basically what that gets us is some playground equipment, a couple of water fountains, a few benches, and a few trash receptacles. So a couple of things about that is kind of like some ideas. I put some things together as to what the playground equipment could look like. Trina, our deputy clerk, was very gracious to go out on a Saturday morning and take some pictures at Boynton Beach and bring those back. So that's included in here. The immediate need, though, and if Vant were sticking around, I put him on the spot too. At the park, if everyone's noticed, when we have special events or even when people rent out the park for functions at the shelter, we have a parking problem, and we just run out of spaces quickly when it's a big event. So part of the conversation conversation, I'm hoping could lead into some additional parking. And the way we get to additional parking is to take the existing playground area, designated playground area, and relocating that a bit north in the park, just beside of the shelter, in between the shelter and the ball field, still inside of the track, the walking track. That will free up that space for additional parking. Now, the reason that's coming up now is, as we're getting ready to order playground equipment, when we install it, if I have to go ahead from council to relocate that, that would be the ideal time to put it in and also relocate the little bit of equipment that we still have left over there, which is basically a swing set and a slide. Now, I did include a picture of the area that I'd recommend if we do it, and this is just for conversation. I'm not married to the idea, but at the park, this is basically to the right or the east of the shelter. There's an area with a sign designated Willie Thomas Picnic Area or Willie Thomas Picnic Grounds. In that area, there's some open space that could easily accommodate the playground. And we might have a little bit better shading in that area also. So that's something I'd like to get some thoughts on tonight. And also, in addition to that, we do have the pictures that Trina took from Boynton Beach. That's to give everyone kind of a vision of what possibly we could have. And those are in the pages that follow. Various pictures. All of these are from Boynton. And finally, it does lead up to a page that has a very generic looking apparatus that probably would fit our budget. Something like this, where you have a couple of slides, you have a stair or two, you have some crawling space, you have a crawling tube, you have a tic-tac-toe type of game at the top. Something along these lines would be about, I'm going to say between 17 to 20,000, just the equipment, and then you can, total installed is going to be close to 30,000. You flip over a page, I'd also recommend what we call a 6-bay swing set. And we've indicated to the county that the majority of our money is going to playground equipment. And then finally, if you flip over, I'm running through this, I know, we can come back. But we do have, now this is more long-term, we do have the 3 options for a kind of a long-term vision that the county recreation department drew up for us a couple of years ago. If you remember, they came out, did the presentation, gave us these big boards here. Not saying that we would have to pick one of the 3. We can combine it. We can take bits and pieces where we want to. But that's something we need to talk about moving forward as well. Also moving forward, we did budget a little bit of money in this year's budget for a design of taking the old racquetball court that's now a storage area and expanding that into a community building, if you will, for rental space and whatnot. We budgeted design money, but not brick and mortar money, if you will. So that's a very quick overview of things at the park. I'm happy to clarify or answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. We'll see at this point in time if there's any questions as it relates to the proposals that have been submitted, ideas, suggestions, comments.
I have a question. I do recall in our previous discussions, the design of the property there was a section still there on the left. I think it's in the west southwest corner, that dugout section. Is that, did we explore the possibility of purchasing that parcel?
Yes, ma'am, on different occasions, and it was just too expensive. We even explored with the county, getting some additional funding to purchase that. That didn't come through. And I can say that within the last year, that property did sell, and it sold for $175,000. So, you know, if we were to purchase it now, if we were the first owner, we're looking at 200 or better probably. So, but we did look at that. That would have been ideal.
Okay, other questions, Vice Mayor? Oh,
Not this time.
okay. Other council comments or questions?
Yes,
Councilman Smith?
without trying to repeat what Vice Mayor's already talked about, and the property sold for $170,000. So you'll be parking Porsches on there, because that's kind of pricey if we were gonna try to buy that, but that would have been a good start for him. So I'm looking at option one, so of the design, kind of sketched in, moving playground equipment to another section to facilitate additional parking, and parking is an issue. So we don't have property that we thought, or was a possibility, is sold. And it's, yes, and I agree, too pricey. So option one looks, it's a potential to walk me and the council through this, with your workshop, and me for sure for clarity. The movement of the playground equipment to another location, how we would, and how much square foot area that we would gain in parking. That 2 car slips, 1 car slip, 4 cars.
I'm looking, probably a good 10, 12 spaces.
Compact cars, no trucks, not big,
No big trucks.
but, okay. So, moving the playground equipment, if there are any thought in play for covering, when I say covering awnings, if we move, but right now, the existing playground does not have that, so depending on what the type of material that those slides are, they can get hot in a certain time of the year if there's no covering, so, and what are the plans in design, if you can explain?
You do have some options there, and shading can run you, depending on what you get,
Yes, sir.
you know, anywhere between 20,000 to 100,000. And I've seen in some parks where they did, you know, they kind of gauged at where the sun was the most prevalent during the day, and they shaded those areas to kind of keep the sun off as much as they could. But with this current money that we're getting, I don't think we'd be able to squeeze out enough to get covered.
Let me throw this in there, and I'm hoping everybody may kind of catch this. Awnings are priced, and they can be priced depending on the, and we budgeted for, playground equipment, awning shade and everything else. If we look at landscape, like implementing trees to kind of, you know, I would think a tree that's somewhat established, you know, a landscape company, strategically place trees that kind of provide some type of shade and cover. So did anybody think that out, or it's just me?
No, we really didn't. We looked at the existing tree in regard to the playground, so you have a couple of thoughts going there. We have pine trees in the park, and those roots can wreak havoc, you know, at times. So
Definitely pine trees.
anything that we move toward pine trees, we run the risk of the roots, I don't want to say destroying, but at least disrupting what we have there. We did not include any money, you know, out of this budget, the 54,000, no money is set aside for landscape wall. We will though, just as a side note to that, and this is not included, but when we put the playground equipment in either where it's at now, or if we relocate it, we're gonna have to do some ADA work, meaning,
Yes,
sidewalk to get to it, you know, hard surface, the wheels to get over it. But no, at this point, no landscaping costs.
All righty.
Okay, let's kind of, and y'all can have that one, just, but, okay, I'm using Dyer Park as a template. I look at the playground there, not the same layout, but the playground more in the center. And when I say center, I'm looking at the preserved tree area. It's like in the center, and then everything works around, you got, bike trails and stuff like that, but just using Dyer Park. Anybody ever been there, you got the equestrian and all that out there, but I was thinking, you know, in that preserve, maybe you jungle gym or swing set somewhere there, and then you can kind of play with that pavilion if you had to. I know that may not be the conversation, but I'm having a conversation, you know, so.
That's not a bad thought. And thinking about the playground, think about this, the majority of your use is gonna be during these functions, these, gatherings these scheduled gatherings at the pavilion, or during ball games. Those are your heaviest usage for the, playground. So you want it somewhat convenient to the pavilion and yet convenient to the ball fields. Where it's at right now is fine, except we could use it for parking. I think once we, start looking northwest of the park a little bit, it's a little bit out there, but the park is situated, there's not a bad spot. So that's a possibility.
Anything else, Councilman Smith? Okay, okay, all right, thanks, okay, Vice Mayor?
My 2 cents.
I'm looking at the design, I guess this is number 1, option 1, and it shows 4 trees kind of like in the middle section of the entire park. Is that relating to these trees that are pictured in this photograph of figure 1?
Talking about option 1,
Yeah, right, the top to bottom, those trees in the middle.
yeah, some of those are already there, yes,
You're referring to the ones that are already existing?
correct.
Okay. And then you made mention of the playground possibly being placed closer to these trees, not in them, but closer to them.
Correct.
That's a possible changing. I think that's a smart idea if it's a location that would be, advisable for the equipment. Won't be, damaging in any way to the foundations of the equipment. But we know that most of our sun is afternoon sun, so the shading will be falling more to the east. And there will be much difference. If you see the area that's on here, it says green play, I guess the open play, on the design, option number 1. The section that's open play would be that possible playground area.
All right.
Open play is just gonna be like green space, the playground itself is identified, or at least that is the way they should have done it. I think open play is just open space.
Okay.
Yes, on option 1, they do list a playground, not quite in the area that I'm recommending, but these are all good options. Looking at option 1, I don't want to deviate too much from the playground, but just on option 1, if you're looking at, if you see that multi-purpose field, that completely rearranges your existing baseball diamond into a multi-purpose field. That's not to say you still can't do baseball. You could. It just reformats it quite a bit.
Okay. Buddy, anything else, Vice Mayor? Vice Mayor?
Just since you made mention that, our field is used mostly for what, football or for baseball?
We have some baseball use. We have a little bit of free open play soccer. I've seen on weekends and sometimes at lunchtime. But, mostly people want to use it as football. That's
And
right.
soccer and football fields could be put about the same,
That's right. That's correct.
probably the design in option one would be the better field, multi-purpose field design. for the-
That's right. What you're looking at there would be very beneficial for football and or soccer. Or, we don't play it a lot around here, but lacrosse, field hockey, this kind of thing.
Okay, Councilman Smith, and then we'll see if we have something.
This is kind of where I'm at. I might have said this at previous council meeting, but we're about to gain a development that's pretty well underway. Well, we're talking Meritage. And I noticed we kind of throwing prices around, budget, going on the budget guideline, what we propose, what we would call for awnings and stuff like that. But if somebody correct me if I need correct, isn't some type of fees coming from that development because of a potential resident and potential resident that's going to eventually move in that development, they're gonna need park to go to. So isn't there fees and money kind of floating around there, or I don't know the price, help me out with that.
I'm not gonna be able to give you an exact number, and I apologize for that, but you do have impact fees for roads, you have impact fees for parks, and you have impact fees for public buildings. So you're correct.
Okay, what,
That's coming from that project.
If I'm not mistaken, from the explanation of the Meritage property, we will have their playground area included in there. Isn't that what I understand?
They're gonna have a very small playground.
Small one, okay.
Ready, other comments?
But we still
It'll-
receive, park impact fee money.
Okay, okay, so just a question. Now, we have about $54,000 that we're looking to work with. Option one, I'm hearing, I guess the sentiments would be option one. Do we have a price on what it would cost to repurpose the baseball field into this field?
No, sir, for these, longer-term visions, if you will, we haven't priced a whole lot.
Okay,
I think we've, broke some stuff down just, in theory, I guess, if you looked at everything that's involved here, everything on option 1, 2, or 3, certainly 400,000.
okay. All righty, so we're going to draw from your experience in just a moment at this time. Right, so if we were to, I guess what I'm trying to do is get to where, well, we'll find out, excuse me, it's going to be the most feasible thing to do, particularly with our financial restraints. That is, we have a wish list. A wish list may be to do option 1, 2, or 3. But in terms of the dollar restraints, if indeed it's going to cost that much, or if it's going to cost more than the $54,000 just to reconfigure the field, then we're missing the mark in that our goal was to provide more equipment for our kids. Correct? Okay. Alrighty. So then, with that being said, for me, the focus then becomes what equipment available can we fit into our budget? You want to try and get something that, of course, the kids would like, and kids like aesthetically pleasing things, and so you're talking the multicolor type of jamborees, I call it. I'm not sure exactly what the industry name is, but the jamborees. And so if we were to look at what apparatuses we'd like to see there, then it kind of helps us to pinpoint where we need to put it. Because, for instance, if the jungle gym following the slide where you have the blue ground and you see the city flag flying, has the two different renditions there from one of our cities down south. That next page where you have just right there is centered, that jamboree, the colorful one.
Everything I've got.
Okay, you're black and white? Okay. Right, so for something like that, just based upon your experience, and we're not asking for an exact amount, just a sort of an educated guess. Something like this would be in the ballpark of about, what, 10,000 or so, 12, 14, 15?
This is probably gonna be more like 30, that's
Ooh.
installed. Installation is, empty cost.
Okay. Alrighty, so if we did something like that, just based upon what we're looking at in terms of if we're going to be relocating, and keep in mind too that if we're spending $30,000 for installation of something like this, then we have about 24. I'm just looking at what we have from the budget standpoint, the 54 that allocated that we know we have. That leaves another 24 for something else to be done. That's including turnkey, right? Not just purchasing, but actually installing and everything else. So if we're looking at another option, I think it was option 3, for instance, was to leave the field intact. I think it was option 3. And we had let me just make sure I have it clear. You're looking at 2 separate playground areas on option 3 in the yellow to the left, bottom left.
That's option 3. But neither one of those locations is the recommendation at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But they do show that in 2 different areas. Well, they're showing a choice, A or B. I think they're giving you a choice on the playground.
Mm-hmm. That's either or and.
It could be either or, but there's certainly enough space for both. So
Okay.
you do have enough space for both if you wanted to go that route.
Okay. Alrighty, so staying in vein in terms of what I'm looking in terms of the budget. So if we were looking at those 2 locations there, just for conversation purposes, if we were to purchase something else, because now the jungle gyms are great. We need to get our kids out there exercising and having fun and everything else. But when you go to a playground, what is the one thing, if you have nothing else, from a child's perspective, are you looking for? Swings, a swing set. Correct. So if we were to look now that if indeed we're going to get something aesthetically pleasing, this jamboree that the younger kids like to run through and so forth, then you get into the 7, 8, 9-year-olds, they like to swing and so forth. And then what we know is that that particular one that we pointed out, just in the center of the page, just that one, if that's going to be about $30,000, educated, guess, so to speak, then another $24,000 would get us a swing set for sure, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that's installed, right. So which means then that we got to find a location for both of them, if indeed that's what we want to pursue, spending the money, targeting the money on actual equipment, then we'd be looking at the and. That would be option 3, where it has the 2 locations in yellow, where you can put a jamboree, swing, and I'm looking at the one that the city of Boynton has. This is public information. City of Boynton has, where they have like the safety type of a blue, and I think that's rubber, if I'm not mistaken. Right? They don't do the shredded up tires anymore. They just do that kind of thing.
It's called a port in place.
Port in place?
Surfacing.
Okay. So if we were to get a 4-tier swing, again, not fixed numbers, but if we were looking at a port in place, and maybe a 4-level swing set, 4 swings, with that 24,000, just based upon your experience, and again, just an educated guess, would we be able to accomplish something like that if we decided that's the way we want to go within that 24,000?
So the port in place is definitely your most expensive surfacing, but for 24, if we're looking at the same surfacing under the apparatus, the jungle gym, and the swing, it would be it would eat up all of it,
Okay.
for sure. And we might go over a little bit, maybe 8,000-10,000.
Okay.
That's definitely expensive. It's the best. It'll last the longest. It prevents a lot of maintenance, but it is expensive.
Okay. Alrighty. So with that, at least from the vantage point in terms of the configuration of the park, I don't know that we want to spend 100 and something thousand, 150 to move the ball field. because you can actually play soccer on a baseball field. You know, you just sort of reconfigure it, put your lines and so forth. You can play lacrosse. You can play anything on a baseball field. It's just a matter of how you put your lines and so forth. It'll look funny initially, you know, but because it won't be a square or a rectangle, but you can do that. You wouldn't be able to do a whole lot in terms of football. I guess you could, but baseball, you wouldn't be able to do on that square thing, so.
You remember the old days, the NFL games where they played like in Oakland and all that, you'd see where they.
The
they
mound and
just finished
everything.
baseball and they're still using the infield and everything. It would be something like that, but, we're lucky because we keep our field the way it is right now. That's a lot of grass. So it's very usable for soccer and football.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. That's just my perspective in terms of just looking at this in the raw, so to speak, and we're just kind of just talking at this point. Other conversations or, okay, Councilman Smith and then Councilman Collins.
No, I mean, we're not gonna make a decision on that tonight, are we?
No, but what we want to try and do is give some direction in as much as we can, but go right ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, because I'm gonna have to, look into this a little, and I need to have a meeting with town manager to go over all three of these.
Yeah, so this is early on for the three options. I think we're, not to speak for the mayor, but I think what he was trying to say is of the 54,000, how much of any of those options can we get? You know, but, you know, the three options, you know, I'm sure when town council finishes up, there's gonna be option 4, 5, and 6, you know, combinations. So, no, it's nothing that needs to be decided. The main thing I needed direction on tonight was relocating the playground, whether or not the idea of additional parking was something that we could agree to, at least in concept tonight, not nailing anything down. So
Okay.
just kind of get the thoughts going on the future.
Okay. But we'll see if McConaughey.
Well, this is a lot more than, I thought we was gonna try to do down there. So,
Now, you're saying on the options or?
no, on in the whole park, I mean, a lot of changes.
All concepts, nothing definite.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have a talk with, we'll go over this thing.
Okay, I saw Councilman Smith and then Vice Mayor, then we'll try and wrap up.
Okay, this is on the workshop, which is great, because I'm getting education, but in my understanding too, we have a park that's multiple years old, that's dated. We have budget, we've had discussions in budgets, we even got impact fee that will aid us in costs. I'm not saying they're a go-to, but if they're there and we're gaining businesses and more residents in the future, they should, and I'm not saying you're saying that, have a park, not state of the art, but an updated park with trash bins, parking space, gym equipment, and like anything that you design and build, the same cost. We just have, these are just a workshop, this is option 1, 2, 3. And I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm laser focused, I mean, in fact, I'm excited that we're having this workshop because parks are the blueprint of towns, and they're necessary. And so that, Mr. Mayor, you're a numbers guy, so I love you for that. You look at numbers, and that's key. Vice Mayor likewise, but I would like to see, and we as a council should like to see some of these funds, the budget workshop we've had and put aside, go into use. And so, it's doable. I have faith that we can, as a council, as a town, and then can give the residents, the people of this town, a nice park. And it's overdue. Eddie Green Park is a nice park, but it needs these upgrades. Definitely.
Okay. All right, Vice Mayor?
I don't think there's a question
All
if
right.
we need it, it's just how much and how we will, arrange it.
Correct.
And just for the mayor's point of view, option 3 is including the possibility of extending the parking lot
Mm-hmm.
to that left portion that we were hoping to purchase. But that purchase didn't happen, so we have to find another area to extend parking if we want to extend parking. So I don't think we can really look too strongly at option 3. We're talking about extending parking in the next of our planning. Now, we're not concerned about extending parking, I can understand. But,
Yep.
but I just want to make sure you understand.
Actually, when you look at option 3, it actually moves the playground from where it is. If I'm not, unless I'm looking at it incorrectly. So what you're doing is that you're actually moving the playground so that in the future, if you have the money necessary, then you can go through and, because now you've abandoned that location and made it available for additional parking at whatever point in time we're going to do it. Right? And I guess, and forgive me, a lot of times I don't give all of the details. I try and go right to it to kind of look at where I think we're going to be. And one of those things in terms of just the factoring, in terms of where we're going to be and why this might be the better plan, is that there's some time constraints, correct? When do we have to expend the monies?
Well, we would have to spend the $54,000 this fiscal year,
Okay. This fiscal year or?
this fiscal year.
Okay, alrighty.
September 30, 2022. But the thing is, getting quotes and selecting a contractor and all that, I mean, it eats up a lot of time. So as we sit here tonight, we're easily in the new year. So it goes by quick.
Okay, right. Okay, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, if we're talking about extending the parking, we need to have something that's kind of designed with what's possible, because the parking extension that we have on option 3 is not possible. So we need to look at where else. Pardon me?
You saying option 3 is totally not possible?
No, because option 3 included the property that we wanted to purchase, and we can't purchase it.
Alrighty.
So we have to look at another design, so where will we extend the parking? That was my point I was going
Okay.
to pull out of it. We have to look at even additional plans that we have before us.
Right. Now, as it relates to the additional parking, and I think Ken is going to probably chime in as well, is that we had talked even before considering, or even if we didn't have the possibility of purchasing the adjacent property, to still take the area where the playground is and turn that into, because that's ours, to turn that into parking. So it would not be as much as we, understandably, if we're not able to purchase that land next to it, but we still would have that abandoned current playground area for parking. Ken, I saw you were going to chime in, or?
Yeah, all three options, it appears all three options take into consideration that the playground is moved and that we're going to use that area for parking. And I think to the Vice Mayor's point, option 3 does, to me, it clearly shows that they even went beyond that and considered the idea that we could purchase that. But all three options seem to capture the idea of the current playground area as parking.
Right. And again, like I said, for just looking at the financial restraint, and I'm just using that word loosely, restraint, $54,000. For me, again, it's what is the best bang for the buck, right? And that bang, of course, including the kids, the playground, not having vacant space to play in, but having some apparatus in which they can utilize to play. So even if you were to consider in one of those two locations, if this is what we decided, that you put the jamboree on in one of those locations and the swing in the other location. Right? Those kids out there exercising, running from one to the other. They don't exercise in school any longer. So we got to find a place where they can have fun exercising while we're actually showing them the full intent is to make sure that we provide a place for our kids to come and play. And we want to maximize that. And, okay, so that's why I was sort of looking ahead, perhaps without it fully explaining, but so my apologies. Okay, so other comments or questions? Oh, no. There are sometimes I weave through it and then I'll just get to the end and explain the end of it as opposed to how I got to the end of it. So, okay. Ready? Other comments or questions?
My other question is, these designs that we have, these three options were provided, you said by the county, Parks and Rec, it was at no cost to us, right? But we're gonna need further design, so to get where we really want to go. So I'm wondering how much additional cost factors we need to look into as well. From that 54,000 will be design costs.
Right, just depending on what we want to do, right? So you have the immediate need of the playground, getting that 54. The next step is to really delve into what we want to see there, in the near to long-term future. Based on that, start calculating the cost, and that will dictate your design cost. I believe the county will hang with us for quite a while though on this.
I think I just got a clarity. The 54,000 is specifically for playground equipment, not for park renovation.
No, it is for park renovations, but just the idea that the majority of that would be eaten up with playground.
Not all of it.
So currently what we're suggesting, or what we've suggested to the county, and we can amend this if we need to, 54,000 included playground equipment to include the additional swing set, park benches, trash receptacles, and
Water fountains.
water fountains, yes.
Okay. And we can do all of that with 54,000? Probably not. Right, so we would have to, once we decide, and hopefully we decide soon, that if indeed we look at a list, priority list, like jamboree, swing, park bench, water fountain, and so forth, so that if we get a proposal back, or once we get everything in line and said, for those two things there, it's going to cost $49,500, then we know we only got a couple of dollars left, $4,500 left in order to spend for something else, as opposed to putting everything in one potpourri, if you will. And so we got this whole fondue pot of stuff. It's like, no, you can't afford to put all of that in that pot. So what can we put in the pot, so to speak?
So how about that?
To the mayor's point, I think at this point, we've got it broken down so much for playground equipment, so much for benches. If we want to, like right now, I'm sitting at 30,000 for the jamboree. And another 4,000 for the swing set. This is all installed. And then you can break it down from there between benches and et cetera. But obviously, the most bang for the buck is going to be playground equipment. That's, like you said, that's what people want to do. That's what the kids are attracted to.
Okay.
I'm all about the kids.
Okay. Other comments or questions?
Good information.
So maybe for our November meeting, we'll come back with some firm options to include playground equipment plus a swing in those two locations with poured-in-place surfacing under both. I think that's
Certainly. So that Ken isn't, sort of flying in the wind when he starts trying to do some pricing. If we can take a quick minute and just identify in terms of what we have before us, and we may decide on some totally different equipment altogether, but based upon what you have in your hand right now, what would you like to see take 2 or 3 items that you would like to see there? what would be those three?
I do know that we wanted to have something, some kind of fitness equipment, and I don't think we have much to look at right now for fitness equipment.
For the kids or for just generally speaking, or? I mean, for the kids or just generally speaking?
Well, basically with kids, yeah. Our older kids. And all we have is referring to the swing set for the older kids, but if there are more things in.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see what you're saying. No, there are swing sets that also have the monkey bars and other things kind of, right. And that's what I was saying. So what, if we can look at least three items for Ken to sort a price out, that'll kind of that would sort of let us know that, oh boy, wait a minute. If you were to do these three things, that's 49 or 50,000. Then we know we only got a couple more dollars. So, but what would you like to see at least in terms of three items? One of those items might be park benches. Those two things, and then park benches. So just quickly, what of those things would you like to see?
Definitely the swing set.
Okay, swing set.
The receptacles,
Okay.
containers, and also, we talked about water fountains, so those are my suggestions, those three items, for sure.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Basically, that's what we've been discussing, those things.
Okay. For me, jamboree, swing set, and if it's something separate and aside, then like the monkey bar, along with whatever. I know there's some new. I can't think of it right now, but they have more than just that attachment to it. Would be my three suggestions. Councilman McConnell. Nothing at this time?
I don't have,
Okay.
I mean, I know we talked about water fountains and some other stuff, but
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so with that, okay, those are the things we'll be looking at pursuing initially. It's not to the exclusion of anything else, but we need to know before we get we get too happy, that know you're at $80,000 right now. That kind of cues us in. Okay. Alrighty, anything else?
I'd just like to, I'm sensing, but just to make sure we're on the right track from the staff perspective, the idea of the additional parking where the playground currently is, that's a concept that we think is doable. Right? But that would not be included in the 54,000, obviously, the paving and all that, but just kind of the prelude to that is moving the equipment that's there. We won't do that tomorrow, for sure, but just putting that on the list, just making sure we're on the right track.
Right. Or unless somebody donated the money for the playground equipment, then yes, then we can go ahead and do the parking as well, perhaps. But yeah, yes. Okay.
now the money that you're getting from the county, is it designated for playground equipment?
It's
Or-
just designated for park improvements, and we kind of get to decide what we're gonna do in there. Correct.
So it's not like a grant, it's specific. You have to spend it on,
It's,
say,
it comes under public facilities, CDBG money, and sometime back, we decided that, and I'm going back several years now, but we decided to put it into the park, and it was just a little bit of money then, but we rolled it over every year, and now, from last year to this year, it went from 41,000, our amount to 54,000. But I think the county's at a point with us where they don't want us to roll over anymore, they want us to go ahead and put it to use. So it is like a grant, but we get to decide, in the confines, how we spend it.
as long as we spend it on the park.
Correct.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Okay, righty, well, those were the two items to our workshop agenda. If there's no other comments or questions, motion for adjournment. Is there a second? Properly moved in second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Full same sign. It is carried. Thanks so much. We'll take a moment and then we'll get into our regular meeting.
Thank you, good discussion.
All right, so we're done with that.